You're listening to Unfiltered, real talk about sex and love with Ashley
and Heather. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about several things that fall under a category of desires, dreams, and waiting well. And it's interesting to me how often we hear this type of question. And so I'm just really excited for us to get to talk about this and our listeners to have some answers.
Yeah, I am too. So let's just jump in.
Okay.
First question. What books would you recommend reading to help me understand sex and orgasm? So I'm going to get your pen and paper, or if you are driving, do not get a pen and paper. Just remember to listen to this episode again when you get home. I'm going to give you a whole list because without more context on this question, we could be talking about somebody who knows nothing about sex and grew up in a home where it just wasn't discussed. We could be talking about somebody who thought they had a healthy sex life, and then after going through betrayal healing and hopefully recovery process with their husband, they're realizing what they had was not very healthy. I fall into that category of realizing that my emotions and what I was doing physically wasn't matching, and I had a skewed perception on what safe, mutual, healthy sexuality looked like. And so depending on if you're pre-betrayal, post-betrayal, no betrayal, undoing bad maybe thoughts around sex or behaviors that you picked up from acting out or watching pornography, wherever it's at. So I'm just going to give you a whole list of things and kind of tell you which one I think fits which scenario. And so first one is The Gift of Sex. I think it's called The Gift of Sex by Joy and Cliff Penner. That one I believe, and I've read it, is just a good overview of like the mechanics of sex. That's what I remember from it. And I'm not very good at remembering all the details of the book. I'm just gonna tell you what stuck in my brain was just like the fundamentals of sex and it being a good gift from God, working through some barriers. And then there's another one that they wrote, Joy and Cliff Penner, called Restoring Sexual Pleasure. And if I get these titles wrong, the links will be in the comments and you'll be linked to the correct resource. That one is a much bigger book and it goes through some barriers of what could be hindering healthy sexuality or good sexuality. And so good sex. So it could be physical things. It could be just thought processes. It could be, again, mechanics like position. And so that's a good practical book with lots of exercises in it. And I will say, I was just telling Heather this before we started, some of those things I read, even I talk about sex for a living and I'm very open sexually, like with my husband and to the world. But there are some things where I'm like, I am not going to do that. I am not doing that. So I'll just say, it's okay. You are not a prude if you read through some things. Heather and I were talking about this on another episode with people. Do you have to shower together? And you get to say, okay, I like this idea, let's do this, or I don't like this idea, I still feel uncomfortable. And it could be something where you feel uncomfortable for a while, and then as you guys become more comfortable and regain trust, it becomes fun and comfortable for you. Or it could be something where you're just like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And that's okay too. Or you use a modified version, like, the workout versions of things. Like, okay, we're going to, use our modified version for this approach. And that's okay. But starting somewhere and pushing through that discomfort and becoming comfortable with talking to your spouse and trying to work toward helping each other understand what you need to feel safe to reach orgasm is a good thing. You don't have to go all the way through all the exercises at the beginning. So the Penner's books, those two. The other one is if there's been a lot of betrayal, unprocessed grief, harm, one that I really like, and I've got lots of highlights that I constantly send my husband, is called The Couple's Guide to Intimacy: How Sexual Reintegration Therapy Can Help Your Relationship Heal. And this one is by Doctors Bill and Ginger Bearcott. And I really like it. It definitely is more clinical the way it's set out. But if you've done a lot of recovery and healing work, then I think you're going to be able to handle it just fine. And again, just read through it and highlight things that you're like, oh, this seems like where we're at and we could try this right now. Or for me, there's been times where there's been a relapse and there's just something feeling stuck in our sexuality. And I've read through some of these resources and highlighted, oh, I'm recognizing that there's some grief that's not processed that's hindering me. Or for the addict, there could be performance issues because of their behavior, whether they've trained their brain and body to respond to a certain thing,
Mm-hmm.
or they're experiencing shame re-entering the sexual relationship with their spouse, and that shame and wanting to please them, wanting to make them feel safe and desired is getting in their head and causing issues. And so that's why when people ask questions like this, it is so layered, and you have to go through the books and resources and highlight those things where you're like, yep, this is resonating with me. And the last resources I want to share are Sheila Gregoire. She's so good. She's very open and blunt about
Mm-hmm.
sexuality. And so not only does she have books, she has The Good Girl's Guide to Great Sex and The Good Guy's Guide to Great Sex. And I remember telling our listeners once that I read Good Girl's Guide to Great Sex and I liked that. And so I ordered my husband the men's one and he's like, another book. And I'm like, so here's the deal. You can either read this yourself or I'll read it and then just tell you everything I learned. And he's like, I'll read it myself. Thank you. So he's always got a stack of books of, things that we're working through. Those books. And then she has the Great Sex Rescue. And then she's got courses. And so you've got Boost Your Libido course, the honeymoon course. So if this question is coming
Mm-hmm.
from somebody who's not married yet, the honeymoon course would be great. And then she has just the straight, good old fashioned orgasm course. And so you have a plethora of resources. And I would say if you don't have a lot of trauma, betrayal trauma you're working through, or addiction struggles, probably jump into Sheila Gregoire's. You're like, you know what, we feel
Mm-hmm.
comfortable and safe together, and we just need to spice things up, and we need to learn like techniques to have, fun orgasm. Start there. If you're dealing with a lot of rupture and repair, grief, sadness, betrayal, affairs, I would say Bill and Ginger Bearclaw might be a good one to start with, and or Joyce and Cliff Penner. And if you're dealing with some religious hangups, I would say start with Joyce and Cliff, but all of them are good resources. So there's my
Mm-hmm.
list.
Nice. That is a great list. Well, and it's one of the things too that I think sometimes women in general that we don't necessarily know our bodies very well. We don't know much about erogenous zones. We don't know what would be like a good lubrication, all of those things that are all kind of part of that package. I remember
Hmm.
in my first Betrayal and Beyond group, the ladies, we were all having this conversation and I was just saying, kind of like, oh, well, you know this. And they, at one point, one of the women, she looks at me, she's like, no, I don't think we do know. And so I created this long document that said, okay, here's the erogenous zones. Here's what this actually means. Here's how to use this. Here's some good lubrication options, some, healthy or natural, or you know what I mean? And so, and they were just so appreciative of that because it's like, I don't know, we don't on purpose as adults find out, it's not like we go and take a sex class as an adult. It's something
Right.
that we learn about it in high school or in junior high, but then I don't know. It just seems like some of the messages get lost. And especially for women specifically, I don't know, it's important. It's important for us to know our bodies and know what we like and know
Mhm.
what we need to achieve orgasm. And so I know the list of books will all be in the show notes. Those
Mhm.
are excellent.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned high school, but even then it's like whether you're learning in church, it's like, don't do this
Mm-hmm.
until you're married. Stay pure. It's the gift, the only beautiful gift you can bring to your husband. And if you've already had sex, then there's shame around that. And I will just say that's not true. That God,
Mm-hmm.
uses all of it. And if we've made mistakes, it's okay. And we can still have a very fulfilling sex life. And then on the school side, it's like you can get pregnant, you can get STDs, but we really don't have classes for how-tos or like you said, erogenous zones or lubrications. And the thing that popped in my head too, some people have a hindrance to orgasm because of something mechanical
Mm-hmm.
or biological or so whether it's changing, the way you do things, lighting, the mood, the position, or getting blood work done to make sure that your hormones aren't all out of whack.
Yeah.
Or for me, I had to see a pelvic floor therapist at some point because there can be pain with sex, which then you don't even, if you've lived with that your whole life, like I had endometriosis and some bladder issues, like if you've lived with that your whole life, then you almost like it almost just becomes like white noise. You don't even
Hmm.
realize that there's another way to live. And so run through that list of other things, medical things too, that could be maybe getting in the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Great answers. All right. Our next question says, after 18 years of marriage and repeated betrayals by my husband, I've been divorced for 2 years and abstinent, yet I struggle with strong sexual desire I'm unaccustomed to outside of marriage. How can I navigate these desires faithfully while waiting for a godly partner? This is an excellent, excellent question because we have a lot of women these days who are single again after they've
Mhm.
already been married. And so I think that even being in a group is going to be really, really helpful. If you haven't done Betrayal and Beyond, I would probably recommend that one first. But if you've been through that, definitely, get into an Unraveled group because that one is going to be more about sex and sexuality and navigating all of those desires. And within those groups, you will also have exercises that say, okay, when you're feeling this way or when you're feeling like you want to act out, what are 10 other things that I can do day or night that I can, redirect my thoughts, redirect my actions into something that's far more healthy because we are sexual beings. And especially if, like this person is saying, she's saying, you know, I've had sex, we had sex in our marriage. And so those sexual desires are still there. Of course they're still there, but how can I be responsible with my sexual desires and be intentional, I guess, too, in redirecting those until she finds somebody else.
hmm Yeah, I really like that, Heather. I was thinking the same thing about group because I noticed that I have been divorced and after having sex and I also have long stretches of being solo while my husband's away on fire assignments. And so whether it's a medical issue or deployment or there's a lot of things that can
Mm-hmm.
separate us sexually from our spouse, even if you're married. And so whether you're married or single, if you find yourself in that sexually single season, then I like what you said about group because what I noticed is that if I'm not staying really active and giving myself good endorphins and happy, chemicals through natural God-given ways of hard work equals reward, then I find that I start wanting cheap substitutes to feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And whether that's food, overeating with sweets, like I find myself at the snack cabinet, or it's binge watching TV shows, or I'm scrolling endlessly on social media, shopping on Amazon, or wanting to sexually act out through masturbation or watching romance movies. Those are all things that I've personally had to become very aware of. But when I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting good sleep, eating well, I'm nourishing my body, I'm exercising and getting those good, healthy chemicals, I'm spending time and getting intimacy fulfillment with friends and family and that
Mm-hmm.
joy that you feel when you leave a really good conversation or a good visit. Self-care. When I'm doing all of those things and I don't have the stress I'm adding by over shopping or overspending or procrastinating, I that temptation to want to fill with cheap substitutes is almost non-existent because you
Mm-hmm.
just feel really good about the ways that you're giving yourself healthy reward. And so kind of look at all of those dimensions of wellness. There's different things online that you can find that are like 8 dimensions of wellness. I've used that
Mm-hmm.
before, or it's basically like creating a pie chart with financial, physical, spiritual, emotional, all these different elements of your life and making sure that you're meeting those needs in healthy ways. Which will actually lessen the desire to do them in unhealthy ways because we say it's not really about sex, it's about meeting a need in a way that some of
Right.
us do, and it ends up being harmful.
Mm-hmm. And it's so important to look at it that way because, like you said, it isn't just one thing. It usually comes from what is identifying what the need is that we're trying to meet. And if you can answer that question, you will be a lot farther along in finding substitutes that are going to move you toward health.
Yeah, like, oh, it helps me fall asleep. Okay, what other ways can we help ourselves get good sleep?
Mm-hmm.
Turn your TV off, get exercise, eat good food, don't eat caffeine and chocolate before bed. Okay, it helps me calm down. Or can I sit in the sunshine and read a book and do some meditative breathing to calm down? It helps me feel good. Are there other ways that
Mm-hmm.
I can feel good? And so be aware of those as well as having your boundaries in place, like the easy temptations of TV in the room, taking your phone to bed, um, pretending that you're going to be able to spend the night with a guy friend, but not have it go very far. Those kinds of things. You want to have boundaries in place too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Last question. I keep having dreams about sex and cheating on my husband. I wake up feeling guilty. Is this a reflection of my character? And is there a way to make the dream stop? I loved this question because I I know you do too, Heather, because I know you
Mm-hmm.
love dreams. But my history with dreams is so fascinating how it parallels our recovery and healing process. I grew up chronically having the same types of dreams of going to hell or my neighborhood becoming a concentration camp. I know that's a weird
Mm-hmm.
one, but that's why I'm partly afraid of like HOA neighborhoods where they have like an entrance and an exit and they're all like fenced in.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have nightmares, reoccurring nightmares all the time from as early as I could remember. And then when I started going through the betrayal healing process, my and realizing my identity and the safety and security in Christ and digging up what my core fears and lies were and putting those into practice during the day, then my dreams started shifting to really empowerment. Like I would remember being in my dream and coming across a man that looked beautiful on the outside, but I could sense he was evil and of Satan. And I would start like proclaiming God's truth over that person, and then they'd just blow up into like like light would start coming out of their eyes and then they just blow up into smithereens. And I started feeling empowered in my dreams, and then the dreams just stopped. And I was like in my 30s and could not believe I was not a chronic nightmare person anymore. And now every once in a while I'll get dreams again, and this is where this question comes in. Every now and then, a couple times a year, I'll get a very vivid dream, and it usually is around sexuality. It's not about going to hell anymore. It's not about any of that stuff. It's either I'm cheating on my husband or he's cheating on me. And I can almost always tie it to something going on that feels unstable or insecure in our current life, like where we
Mm-hmm.
haven't been communicating enough, or something is off sexually, or we've gotten into a conflict, or there's a new situation at his job that makes me feel insecure. And so what I say to this is don't pay attention as much to the detail of the dream, but be thinking about what feelings are associated with what you're experiencing in that dream. And so for me, I can say, I had this dream. I'm feeling really insecure about something going on. Can we talk about, recovery and where you're at and boundaries? And can we pick up our regular communication again because it's fallen off lately? Or if it's me that's cheating, it might be associated with I feel out of control in some way,
Mm-hmm.
or that's usually it. Like I'll say I feel like my brain is getting redded again, and when I say that, I mean I can feel my addictive mindset of like shirking my priorities and my responsibilities and things that keep me healthy and safe. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm acting out again, but my brain is going into that, just staying up too late, overdoing things, spending too much, eating bad, or just kind of getting in that addictive mindset. So think about the feeling associated, and then maybe even get out your thoughts and feelings, like a feelings wheel, and try to figure out, like, okay, what am I feeling right now? And then when have I felt like this before? And how is this related to our current situation? And what can we do? What can we put in place or talk about to address those feelings?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. I like that you said pay attention to the feeling behind the dream because I know that my therapist, she said that dreams can be some of our best free counseling, and especially if we aren't so focused on the details, but more so the feelings within the dream. I know that I tend to have really chaotic dreams when I'm feeling stressed or overwhelmed. And because for the most part, my life is pretty, quiet, peaceful life. And so then when my levels of stress and anxiety and overwhelm start to show up in my dreams, it's most likely because I'm not dealing with the reality of my situation, and that I'm just trying to stuff it down, or I'm just trying to get past it without going through it. And so, yeah, it's really an important piece to all of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. I love how you said it's like free counseling. I feel that way too. It's always related to me. So do some work during the daytime and also maybe be careful about what you're consuming before bed. I remember one of my pastors I like, Dr. David Jeremiah, he's like had surgery or something. He's like, do not watch 24 before you go to bed. You'll be killing people and running for your life in your dreams. And so
Yes.
that it could be as simple as that too, of what we're watching or thinking about before we go to bed. So, um, okay, well, thank you so much for joining our conversation today. And if you can think about it, we should be talking about it. Please send your questions to us at unfiltered@puredesire.org. We read every single one. We love getting your questions. They create these episodes. And make sure that if you like this episode, you share it with a friend and subscribe.